I would like to first start by recognizing that we are on Algonquin traditional territory. Canadians are often on Indigenous peoples' traditional territory without realizing it, and it's important for all of us to reflect upon that, because the first step of true reconciliation is learning more about one another.
In 1867, Confederation became a reality, thanks to the compromise and vision of people like John A. Macdonald and George Etienne Carter. What began as a partnership between four provinces became something much greater, a country that is extraordinary, prosperous and generous, a land of possibility.
Celebrating 150 years since the Confederation, 2017 seemed like a good time to visit Canada. But it's so vast, the second largest country in the world, and we had just 3 weeks to explore. It was clear we had to choose just a small bit to visit. So where? Well, first we liked the idea of seeing rugged, wild countryside. And apparently there's over 100 national parks. It would be nice to meet locals and to get to see towns and cities like Vancouver and Banff. Just 3 weeks, so we needed to make the most of our time. The Rockies looked good, and we heard that one of the world's great train journeys, the Rocky Mountaineer, had some real luxury. So we chose the Rocky Mountains, starting at Calgary and touring parts of British Columbia and Alberta.
Arriving in Calgary, just a 10-minute stroll from our hotel, we crossed the Bow River and were in Princess Island Park. Picked up our hire car after breakfast the next morning and headed out on the Trans-Canada Highway 1 towards Banff. First stop in Banff National Park, the beautiful Water of the Spirits, named Lake Minnewanka by the Stoney Nakoda First Nation people because they respected and feared the lake for its resident spirits. An abandoned resort village, Minnewanka Landing, established in 1888, lies at the bottom of the lake, submerged after the construction of a dam in 1941, which forced inhabitants of the area to resettle involuntarily. Banff was first settled in the 1880s after the Transcontinental Railway was built through the Bow Valley. In 1883, 3 Canadian Pacific Railway workers stumbled upon a series of natural hot springs on the side of Sulphur Mountain. This was the beginning of Canada's national park system. Springs which were first discovered by Stoney Nakoda people prior to the 1800s were regarded as sacred waters that could cure illness and maintain health. For less fit visitors like us, there's a gondola to take you to almost the top of Sulphur Mountain, where we enjoyed the spectacular bird's eye view of 6 rocky mountains, only slightly shrouded in the smoke from the record wildfires this year. Lake Louise. The Stony called it Ho Run Num Nay, meaning Lake of the Little Fishes. A Stony guide took Canadian Pacific Railway workman Tom Wilson to the site in 1882. Wilson named it Emerald Lake, but the name was changed in 1884 to honour Princess Louise, 4th daughter of Queen Victoria. Near the lake, the resort community is on the site of the former Canadian Pacific Railway Station, Lagan, which was base camp for 12,000 workers in 1884 when the Canadian Pacific Railroad construction proceeded through Kicking Horse Pass. Next stop, Jasper. The largest national park in the Canadian Rockies, Jasper is wild in every sense of the word. After boarding the longest and highest guided aerial tramway in Canada, prepare to be amazed as you gain a brand new perspective of Jasper's stunning national park. Your 7-minute flight aboard the Jasper Skytram will take you to an altitude of 2,263 metres and into a whole new world with endless views of 6 mountain ranges. On our way to Jasper, we stopped off at the Columbia Icefields, the largest ice field in the Rocky Mountains, located in the Canadian Rockies on the Continental Divide along the border of British Columbia and Alberta. The retreating Athabasca Glacier is a stark warning about the effects of climate change. Reading Louise and Robin's webblog, Elite Jet Setter, they talk about and show photographs of the dramatic changes over just the previous 3 years. Flowing from Columbia Icefield's huge glaciers nearby is Athabasca Falls, among the most breathtaking and powerful falls in the Canadian Rockies. The Athabasca Falls are located 30 kilometres south of Jasper town site. We were warned to be careful of the slippery surfaces close to the edge of the falls. There have been 5 deaths here in the past 20 years, and in spite of the warning signs, some visitors climb over barriers and take risks. At 3,363 metres, Mount Edith Cavell is located in the Athabasca River and Astoria River valleys and is the most prominent peak in Alberta.
Originally called White Ghost by Native Americans, during World War I it was officially renamed Edith Cavell to commemorate the execution of this heroic Red Cross nurse. Sometimes described as one of the world's greatest train journeys, a trip through the Canadian Rocky Mountains on the Rocky Mountaineer train is without doubt the best way to see this spectacular scenery. This is a feast for the eyes and the best food and drink, all provided with first-class service from our hosts, who even had time for a laugh and a joke. The first part of our journey took us from Jasper through Mount Robson Provincial Park and Clearwater to our overnight stop at Kamloops. Travelling slowly at 30 miles per hour or less, we had time to enjoy the beautiful and dramatic scenery. As we approached Kamloops, a historic trading town on the Thompson River, views were slightly marred by the smoke from record wildfires to the north of us. Arriving at our hotel early evening, we had just time to find somewhere for dinner, then a brief walk downtown. After a good night's sleep, back on the train after breakfast to enjoy another fine day as we travelled to our destination, Vancouver. Following the mighty Fraser River, at 854 miles it's described as the most savage river of the continent. So here we are in Vancouver after our luxurious train journey. The hotel was walking distance from places like the famous Stanley Park, home to some of Vancouver's most famous landmarks, including Second Beach, Siwash Rock, the Stanley Park Seawall and Prospect Point. From here we walked by English Bay to take a small ferry across the harbour to the public market on Granville Island. Home to 300 businesses, studio and facilities, the destination still retains an old-fashioned, timeless feeling. Craftsmen and artists take up residence here, and it's clear that the tradition of apprenticeship and mastery is alive and well. No visit to Vancouver would be complete without seeing the Capilano Suspension Bridge. A bus picks us up from outside the hotel and it's just a 15-minute drive from downtown Vancouver.
Keep going.
So our very first private owner is a Scottish civil engineer by the name of George Grant Mackay. He came over to Vancouver in 1888. He was also Vancouver's very first City Parks Commissioner. So if you guys have been to Stanley Park yet, he's the one who commissioned the land that is now known as Stanley Park. So in 1888, he actually bought 6,000 acres of property around Vancouver area for $1 an acre. And he fell so much in love with the rainforest that he decides to build a vacation home for his friends and family in 1889. The local First Nations people call this bridge the Laughing Bridge because of the sound that the bridge would make when the wind would blow through the canyons. Now the next particular man that bought this bridge, he is a German businessman by the name of Bruno Stelzer. He replaced the hemp rope with wire cables and started charging people 10 cents to cross a bridge, which made us Vancouver's very first commercial tourist attraction.
The Totem Park has a welcome log with Capilano suspension bridge carved on it and features authentic BC totem poles. The plaque that gives general information about the native Kia Plano is proclaiming them as BC's earliest human connection to nature. Each of them tells fascinating stories. Our final destination on this fascinating journey of Western Canada is Victoria, capital of British Columbia, which sits on the southern end of Vancouver Island. The Victorian architecture is a clear sign of British colonial past. Known as the Garden City, Victoria is in the top 20 of world cities for quality of life. This area was home to several communities of Coast Salish peoples. Due to the serious environmental challenges to the Salish Sea, tribal and First Nation leaders, along with non-tribal governing officials, come together in a non-government to government consultation event yearly. A National Historic Site of Canada, Bouchard Gardens is a place we were recommended to visit. 55 acres of glorious colour and beautiful water features. Hard to believe that this used to be a quarry. Well, our 3 weeks have come to an end. Canada celebrating 150 years of the Confederation seems a good idea, but one that many Indigenous people don't agree with. It turns out that most visitors to Canada, and even many Canadians, don't realise that often First Nation people are still treated as second-class citizens, and there are still a lot of problems. But there's no doubting that Canada is a beautiful country, one well worth visiting.